Alright, it's August the 8th. We're doing a Smackdown review here. I'm once again riding solo without Byron. This will be the final podcast that is the case, as he's returning from where he has been to join me as my heterosexual life partner once again. So let's roll on here. We open up Smackdown with John Cena. Excuse me. John Cena, Baron Corbin, and Daniel Bryan doing a deal. Basically, we get Cena versus Baron at SummerSlam, which could be Cena's continual redemption for the Nexus thing, which would lead to him putting Baron Corbin over, which probably is a good thing. I don't like the... I've never liked the idea that having the Money in the Bank briefcase means you can eat a bunch of losses. Not really a fan of it, because at some point it just ends up making you, like, it keeps me caring about you because you have the briefcase, you have a storyline, you have a role to play in the coming days of the title. But once you win it and you've been beaten into the ground a little bit, because Baron of course has lost to Shinsuke Nakamura, if he were to lose to John Cena as well, it would end up with him being a pretty weak champion should he win it, by cashing in on the winner of the Nakamura-Jinder Mahal match. Hopefully Nakamura, but we'll have to see. So, parts of this were good. There were some good deliveries, specifically on Cena's part, but there were also some pretty poor jobs done, some flubs, as it were, as well. So, thumbs in the middle, pretty solidly. Then we got the Usos versus Ty Dillinger and Sami Zayn. I enjoyed this match, actually. It was pretty good, as you would expect from the Usos being pretty competent workers. And, of course, big fan of Ty Dillinger and Sami Zayn. When I'm down on their match, it's a pretty bad sign. I'm going to complain to a degree about the ending, because the Usos wound up tapping out Ty Dillinger. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not generally a fan of tap-out losses for faces that you're thinking of doing something with. And I'm hoping they're thinking of doing something with Sami Zayn and Ty Dillinger, even if it's just a tag team run or something, because they're two amazing talents that are not really being utilized to the full levels of their abilities right now on SmackDown. And they're not alone. There's a number of other people who are kind of in that same boat. And WWE writing really, to me, I think should step up in that regard, because if you can keep a number of wrestlers strong, it gives you different directions to go with everybody. It makes the future less predictable. It makes it more interesting to see what matches we can come up with, the more different matches, and less boredom. Because if you keep kind of having a main event to a deal of or in a mid card of 4 to 5 people, you're just going to run out of combinations pretty quickly and burn it out, and then you got to do roster swaps to reinvigorate life into it. Whereas you could really just simply have people mean something at all times and do something with them, keep them fresh. I mean, you got to have your jobbers, don't get me wrong, but it feels like the number of people who feel like the writers are invested in them on the SmackDown and the Raw brand can be counted on your fingers, and it's not really a good thing. So we did get a good match here. We got the tap out loss, which was not great, and then the New Day jumped the Usos from behind. This to me came off as flat, because I mean, the commentary kind of put it best. Michael Cole, or no, not Michael Cole, wouldn't have been Michael Cole, but Tom Phillips and Byron Saxon, were like so happy that the face New Day had come back to ambush the heel Usos. But then JBL points out, well, they jumped from behind, this isn't going to battle, etc. To a degree correct. And their only response was basically the Usos did it first. It's pretty weak face justification if the answer is they did it first. That makes it okay now. To me, that's just not really good face writing. So, yeah, the ending not great, but the match did lead us off right, and actually really kind of led to a pretty solid night of in-ring work just in general. Then we got Fashion Peaks featuring the return of Dango, more Ascension, and most importantly, Arn Anderson is in on this now. This is freaking hilarious. So the basic storyline here was the Ascension is in the office with Tyler Breeze, and he's relating the dream he had about the Ascension and Dango and everything from last week. And they're just there because, he advertised free pie. So there is that. So they leave. Dango returns. He reveals that he was kidnapped by aliens, and he stayed for the free wardrobe, doing air quotes, because he, of course, mentions before that anal probing. So, yeah, we're getting an anal probe shout out. Had to happen. Enjoyed it. And they also gave him the ability to have clairvoyance, but of course he doesn't know what clairvoyance means. Like, he knows what it means, but he can't say the word. He's like, Claire. I can see in the future. And then Breeze wants proof. He says, the person who comes through that door next is the one that destroyed Tully the horse. And Arn Anderson comes in looking for catering. And they ask him, did you destroy Tully the horse? You're damn right I did. I was the hoss of the group. And you know what else? Take these. Grab some donuts from the table. Man, you got something rolling right when you can get Arn Anderson involved in a comedy skit. It was hilarious. So funny. The content isn't all that great, but because it's Arn Anderson, it's just fantastic work. So I really enjoyed this. I enjoy the Fashion Files almost every week, and this one ranked quite high on the list. We had Charlotte versus Lana. Basically a squash match with Lana tapping out to the figure eight. More development on her storyline with Tamina on the night before the match. She was saying, I want to be like you, but more ravishing, more, which doesn't really make any sense because a lot of what does make Tamina impressive in the ring is just size, which Lana doesn't have. So, just got to throw myself up in a shrug on this one. And the other thing is Tamina came out to kind of take Lana away when they started out this whole thing. So, just weird. I don't think they thought this through. I just don't. After the match, though, there was a meeting in the locker room where Tamina does say, despite your lack of in-ring talent, basically, you've gotten 3 title shots in a row. It's because of your ambition. Now you're going to help me get mine. So at least that part actually makes sense. Although Tamina needs to stop doing a jacket thing, like mid promo. Like she does the jacket straight, and that's kind of like end promo go off. And she did it like 3 or 4 times. And it's like, okay, just save that for the end. So I think she's just nervous in front. She hasn't really done a lot of on-screen promos, really. So I don't know. Still not really sure where this whole storyline is going. It's just kind of weird. I'm hoping it goes to places that allows us to make Lana a serious wrestler, because again, this whole thing with Lana has been weird because they put her in a match with Naomi for the title that a lot of people thought was going to be really bad, and it was actually pretty decent. Or we just had low enough expectations that it became decent. Not sure which, really, but it was reasonably good. But it's like it wasn't supposed to be good. And then they had to bury her, and bury her, and bury her, and we're still burying her. And it's not that she should have beaten Charlotte, because she shouldn't. But she should have. It shouldn't be treated as a squash match almost. And that's what this really was. Outside of getting to slap Charlotte in the face, there really wasn't a lot in the way of any kind of work done by Lana in the match. And I don't know. It's still very weird. Then we went to the ring with Shane, Kevin Owens, and AJ Styles talking about setting up the match that Shane's going to be officiating at SummerSlam between these two men for the United States title. It got, of course, the Montreal Screwjob stuff out of the way, as Owens reminds everyone that Shane would not be the first McMahon to screw a great Canadian, referencing Bret Hart, although, of course, saying that Bret Hart deserved it. I don't! So, still healing it up. And he reminded us that AJ and Shane have their own checkered past and history. So, it made the story more interesting, although I'm still fairly certain that this means AJ does go over, and then we transition to an Owens and Shane McMahon feud, which could be interesting. And I would still like it to go that way, but at least, at least it seems like there are other doors open. And at the end of this whole schmozzle, AJ actually Pele kicked Shane by accident, going for Kevin Owens. So you cover really kind of everything here, and I like this. This is good writing, good delivery, really all around, pretty solid. Sets up the feud nicely. The only thing, of course, is that the Owens versus Styles matches have been notably worse than one would expect them to be. And it's kind of weird for two absolutely fantastic workers just to not be able to seemingly put together good matches on a regular basis here on pay-per-view or on TV. And that's a bit painful. So the feud has been a little painful in that regard, but at least, writing here did its job. Unlike with the Tamina and Lana stuff about making this, a pretty compelling piece of work. Then we had Carmella versus Naomi. I don't like the booking of the match. I don't like you booking your Money in the Bank holder versus your champion because, one, it kind of gives away a match that, in theory, you're teasing for down the road. Two, one of them has to lose, and either your champion is eating a pinfall, or we go back to the whole problem where you kill off your Money in the Bank holder a little too much, and they end up being a weak champion. They got around to here by having Ellsworth return and trip up Naomi while she was on the top rope. But I think this was botched a little bit because Naomi didn't really hit the mat very hard or very awkwardly and wound up being taken out by that. I think that bump should have been worse to really warrant how long she was down to get pinned by Carmella. On the bright side, this match was actually pretty good. Considering my expectations for these two in a match, it was really not bad. There was good pace from Naomi. The offense was varied. She did have to go back to the frickin' can kicks. But it's a signature move. I guess you got to do it. It's just a bad spot. It's just a bad spot. It doesn't make any real sense, and it doesn't really seem to have any real impact. So, I'm not a fan of it, but okay, I guess you got to do it. But yeah, it was a pretty solid match up until the somewhat bad ending. It gets Ellsworth back in here, set up a little confrontation with Naomi backstage. Or not Naomi, Natalia backstage with Carmella, which they've been very inconsistent about that because, of course, last week those two were in a tag team match where they seemed buddy-buddy, and now they're back to being heated with each other, which is how it should be. This is a big deal. Like, Carmella should be disliked by even the heels because of the whole Ellsworth helping her win the Money in the Bank thing. And they kind of they just forgot about that for a week, and at least they're back on it now. But writing staff, let's try and not let that kind of stuff happen. How's that sound? Then we proceed on to the main event between Randy Orton and Jinder Mahal. Again, this is a match that when I heard it was booked, I didn't like it because the whole deal is that the Singh brothers being injured means they're not going to interfere in the match, and we're going to get a proper one-on-one match for two men who have been feuding for a long time over the Smackdown title, the WWE World title. And no matter who wins, this ends up not making a lot of sense. Because if Jinder Mahal wins, and it's not a screw finish, then what Randy Orton's been saying is basically false. It's not that the heel has been cheating to win and using the numbers game and so on to beat him. He just can beat him 1v1. And if he wins by a fuck finish, then what was the point of the match? Because we just basically got what we have gotten between these two men repetitively. And if Jinder loses, your champion has lost to a guy he is not defending the belt against at SummerSlam. He's already a weak champion who's had to do a lot of these non-title matches because they don't trust him to do proper main event matches, and it damages him further. So there wasn't really a good way to do this match. And the sad thing is that the match itself actually was probably one of their best. It was actually not bad. It was not good by any means. I don't think you can really at this time give me a good Jinder Mahal Randy Orton match, but this was better than a lot of their other efforts. Pretty decent. good back and forth stuff, good psychology, good pace. So the bright side is it really wasn't a bad match, and Randy Orton won by the RKO. But on the dark side, again, no matter which way you went, the booking wasn't going to make a tremendous amount of sense with a result. And the result is your champion took a clean pinfall loss to Randy Orton, a guy he's not defending against SummerSlam, and hopefully is not really even going to be facing him anytime soon for a couple of reasons. Number one, their matches have not been particularly good. As I said, this was their best one, and it wasn't really given time. 2, you just ended this feud. 3, you got Shinsuke Nakamura coming up, so Nakamura's you're taking shine off of Nakamura if he wins the title at SummerSlam, because we've got a guy who just lost on SmackDown to Randy Orton. Not that you don't have time to try and correct that, try and rebuild Jinder, but I don't think you can, because he's not all that great. He's not believable in the ring, and this is just continuing that pattern. Frankly, this could have been a chance to put him in there with someone and get him a win without the Singh's help. Not Randy Orton, because I think that kills Randy Orton too much, but it could have been really just anyone else, really, and it would have probably worked a lot better. So I just, much like Naomi versus Carmella, this match actually over-delivered. It's just the booking of even having the match doesn't really make any sense. So that's kind of the crossroads we're at. Anyways, we finish off with Rusev attacking Randy Orton from behind to hype up their match at SummerSlam, which I hope Rusev wins because he does need a win, but I think he'll probably lose. Excuse me. But, yeah, so overall rating for SmackDown, I actually enjoyed a lot of the in-ring competition outside of the Lana-Charlotte match, which felt too one-sided. We had some good stuff. Usos had a good match against Dillinger and Zayn. We had a good match with, again, the last 2 matches over-delivered what I expected from those combinations, and that's always a positive. But not a lot of the booking made a particularly large amount of sense. Like I said, the last 2 matches just probably shouldn't have happened. I don't really like the tap-out finish in the tag match. And I don't like the whole deal with really Lana and Tamina. Just in general, I think it doesn't make a lot of sense. And it seems like, to a degree, some of the writers are writing stuff that just forgets some of the old stuff. And we still don't have really a good reason for how that's going. Fashion Files was fantastic. But, yeah, I mean, it's got to be a thumbs in the middle show. Just because so much of it doesn't really make a lot of sense, which is a disappointment because the in-ring action makes me want to give it a thumbs up. But the writing doesn't. And this goes back to this whole thing with WWE where you have so many writers on staff and for whatever reason, they can't seem to consistently write a good show. It's pretty bad. It's really bad. Watch Raw this week. Hasn't convinced me to do reviews of it yet because it's still not been very good. And I don't really feel like torturing myself with 3 hours of that on a weekly basis. I'm just going to check in every once in a while, see what's going on, see if something's going to happen, and if it gets good, me and Byron will happily do it. Also checked out some GFW. Might do some reviews of that, although it's a pretty mixed bag right now as well, so it's not really making me want to, like in the way that Lucha Underground and of course New Japan with the G1 Climax are. We're going to have some more G1 Climax stuff out this week. We're going to have our 205 review. We're going to have our NXT review. And until then, I hope you enjoy yourself. And don't be caught on Byron's lawn because he'll turn the hose on you.